Well, howdy, folks. The quietness says you're ready to go. We want to thank you for being here today. Mr. Shunk's going to have 30 minutes. Okay, so the three questions on the side of the board that we are side of the room that we asked him to entertain today. Who does he aspire to be as a teacher? What opportunities is he engaged in to become a better teacher? And how's he going to maximize the student teaching internship this spring and coming up fall at his cooperating center? So he'll tell you more about that. At the end of his 30-minute presentation, we'll have 10 minutes for questions and answers from the group. We would love for you to entertain questions for him as well. Jess is monitoring our Zoom and our Facebook live session. So if you're joining us online, we ask that you put those in the chat when you have them. Baylor, they're all yours.
All right. So I want to start out by thanking everyone for being here. Cohort members, teammates, family, faculty members. It's been a crazy ride. So I'm excited to get to share this all with you and kind of talk about everything that I've done leading up to this point to be ready to go rock out student teaching in the spring and next fall. So first, we'll start here.
This is going to be a gas.
Yeah, so I'm from Penns Valley, Center Hall, PA. I'm a local guy. Haven't gone very far, obviously. Came 25 minutes up the road to State College. Come here for school and for wrestling, but grew up on a farm, like I said, small grain operation with small beef herd, making lots of hay. As you can see, my dog Titan, he loves riding the combine. He likes watching the reel go around, and he waits for the rabbits to run out across and barks like crazy, but that's about it. A little bit of our hay making operation. We farm around probably 600 acres in total, and a little over half of that's probably making hay. So I spend a lot of my summertime handling small square bales. We don't, we're a little old fashioned in that way. We still make a lot of small square bales. So it's a lot of hard work, but it's taught me a lot as well. And then there's my mom petting a little cat that we had probably 2 years ago. Not much bigger than my dog. And then as far as wrestling background, like I said, I'm a wrestler here at Penn State University. Started whenever I was probably 5 years old at Penn Valley High School with my coaches right here. But spent a lot of time wrestling. Growing up, high school, I didn't get involved with a lot of other things just because my focus was always on wrestling, going to practice, working out all the time, spending time with my teammates. And it's a lot of the similar qualities I've taken to my professional development as well. But I get to spend time with these guys, which is pretty cool. So this is probably me at the start of the semester. Well, no, it wasn't probably me. It was me. I did not even have a club. Like they said in Friends. Friends is one of my favorite shows. So I like to include that. So I'm going to flip the script a little bit, and I'm going to start with my how I'm prepared to maximize my student teaching internship. I'm very grateful to be going to Central Columbia to work with Mr. Doug Brown. And also, this is good. They're a teacher program. They're an approved program. They have approximately 9 ag courses to choose from. They teach everything from Ag Science 1, 2, 3, and 4 to environmental science. They have an animal science course, a land surveying course, and a forestry and wildlife science course. So lots of things for their students to choose from. And they have 2 zip codes that they operate under, the ag and zip code, and then their ag and related sciences, which is where it falls in with the environmental science, animal science, things like that. So when we look at Central Columbia, it's a very strong program, and I'm super excited to be going there. Some of the strengths they have include their FFA program. Mr. Brown has been there for 32 years and has established a lot of credibility within the community and gets approximately 90% of his students that are enrolled in his ag ed program into his FFA program as well, which is pretty cool. Obviously, we would love that to be 100%. Getting kids involved in FFA is super important. But they have a lot of cool opportunities to provide kids to work in the community. Bloomsburg Fair is a big part of what they do with their FFA chapter. So there's a lot of cool things that they can do with FFA, and I'm excited to be a part of that. As far as SAE curriculum integration, they incorporate SAE into their scope and sequence. So every student will have an SAE project, start out with their foundational SAE in Ag Science 1, and then build upon that as they grow up through Ag Science 4 and continue their other coursework. And then facilities. They have a lot of brand new facilities. They have 2 classrooms, one for each of their teachers. And then they also have a full metal and wood shop. They have an electricity and small gas engines lab. They have an environmental science lab, an animal science lab, a plant science lab, and a greenhouse. They kind of just handed over the reins to Mr. Brown a few years ago. We're like, tell us what you want. Super supportive administration. So he got to design a lot of the facilities, and we're making the most out of what they have now, which is super cool, and I'm excited for it. And then some of the areas for growth that I believe Central Columbia really has. I say SAE consistency. I think more in terms of SAE retention. We see students that start out with foundational SAE and then tend to kind of just go through the motions the rest of the year. So I sat down and talked about that with Mr. Brown. And I just think that that's something that we can definitely improve on and maybe intrigue students, find different ways to intrigue students with their SAE, with those career exploration whenever they're starting out, and getting them really focused on something that they feel like can provide meaning for them in their career, in their future, because I think that's what really matters. And then international agriculture. So I'll talk about this a little bit later in my own, whenever I answer who I aspire to be as a teacher, but they don't really have any curriculum integrated with international agriculture and talking about sustainable development goals, things like that. So that's something that I'm interested in learning more about, and I want to find a way to incorporate that into my lessons. Whether I'm teaching a unit on international agriculture or not, or maybe even a whole course, I think it's still something that I can sprinkle into lessons no matter what, and I think that's something that I really look forward to doing in student teaching. So here's a little look at my master calendar. Probably looks a little bit different than most of the ones that you've seen here these past few days. I will be starting my student teaching internship after wrestling season in the spring, so in late March, early April. And then I will be coming back next year for another go around in the fall, and starting out with the last 6 weeks or so of my student teaching internship in the fall of next year. Cool thing about this is I also get to experience a summer calendar as an ag teacher. I work with Mr. Brown all summer long. I'll get to be involved with Bloomsburg Fair in the fall, which happens during the school year. So I'll get to see what all goes into that, work with students, get them ready to show animals, whatever it is they need to do. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Here's a look at my daily bell schedule. Spring and fall look pretty similar outside of a few classes. I'm going to pop in and out of Mrs. Good's land surveying course in the fall semester, just because that's something I'm not so familiar with and I want to learn a little bit more about. So I'm going to pop in and out of there just to see what's going on. But outside of that, pretty similar 45-minute bell schedule. So, how in the world is the most unorganized kid in the world going to stay organized? My cohort members can probably speak to this. Earlier in the semester, I stopped and said, you know what? I'm going to go to Walmart and I'm going to buy a ton of folders and binders. And I'm going to get all my papers together, separate them by course, and I'm going to be like dead set on everything being organized. All those folders are still in the Walmart bag that I bought. Whenever that was, probably September. But I have used Google Drive more recently with the help of a lot of my cohort members. I was like a safety desktop guy, and then my desktop was like just jumbled up mess. So I moved everything into Google Drive now, and it's all linked into my Microsoft Teams account, which has really helped me kind of keep everything straight. I can split everything into folders, my lesson plan folders within those unit folders, and it really does help keep me organized. So some of my strengths as an educator, I do believe I'm very adaptable. I'm pretty good at adapting on the fly, and I just don't really get rattled. I've been in front of a lot of people before, I had to do a lot of things. So I just feel like I'm very good at adapting to my students' needs, whatever it may be. One of my strengths is ag mechanics. Growing up on the farm, just working around a lot of agricultural equipment, I feel pretty confident with ag mechanics. I took a lot of ag mechanics courses in my high school ag program. And then time management. With wrestling, I have to balance a lot of things, and it's not easy. I admit that I probably get stretched pretty thin sometimes, and it's not easy to admit all the time. But I do get stretched thin, and sometimes I just have to take a step back, plan my days out, and then go from there. Then my areas for growth, like I said, I already hit on organization, but I really want to get better with animal and environmental science. That's something that I get to do. I get to teach an environmental science course while I'm student teaching forestry unit, so I'm really excited for that. And Mr. Brown's like the environmental science tutor, so that'll be perfect. So when I look at my experiential education opportunities that I've become that I've engaged in terms of an agriculture educator, I can look at some of the courses that I took here at BSU. First of all, I want to list off 311, Dr. Curry's course. So developing youth leadership. I was somebody that was not heavily involved in FFA. I didn't even know what an SAE was when I came to college. And this course has kind of given me the crash course on all things FFA, all things SAE, and has familiarized and made me comfortable in going into student teaching internship and knowing what those things are and feeling like I can provide my students with those opportunities that they deserve. You know, the 3-circle model for ag ed includes FFA and SAE, all this classroom instruction. So I think that's super important. And then my BBH, biobehavioral health course. This was a class that I wasn't really looking forward to. I had to take it freshman year while I was here, and it was required for all freshman student athletes. And ultimately, it was all about making the transition from high school to college, which was something that didn't seem like a big deal, but I wasn't somebody who had to do a whole lot of work in high school. Everything came pretty easily to me, and that changed a lot when I came to college. So learning how to make that transition really helped me kickstart my college career here. And then SI 14, I'm super, like, I don't even know the right word. I just like listening to how people think, how kids think, how adults think, what makes them act certain ways. I think that's all really, really cool and interesting. So I just really did enjoy my time during the SI 14, which we went over something like instruction, theories of motivation, things like that. Some of the certifications that I have, I am Red Cross CPR certified. I also have my PET first aid and CPR certification. Challenge, George. And I am a National Safe Tractor Machinery Operation certified to instruct students, which, if you look at my calendar, I teach a 30-day unit on safe tractor machinery operation. So I'm now certified to instruct that, and my students will be earning their NSDMOB certification as well. So some of the professional development opportunities that I've taken part in unfortunately, I did not get to go with my cohort to NAAE in Vegas, but I did get to attend PAAE this summer, Delaware Valley. Got to meet a lot of cool educators in PA, get to know them, do a little bit of networking. And then the Academic Inquiry Institute, which took place here recently as part of our methods course, 8412. We got to dive into inquiry-based learning with students, how we can maybe give students a little bit more information and allow them to develop solutions to certain content areas, which I thought was really cool, and providing some cool lessons that I get to go into student teaching with. And then, yes, the first ever PSU Ag Ed Youth Camp for our senior cohort took place in August this past year. As you can see, this is a real picture from this summer. But we kind of got the front load from that unit, lesson plan material, curriculums, aligning standards, store materials, things like that. So that was extremely helpful as well. And yeah, I don't know who put that in there. So some of my internships and overall life experience, as you see, that's my brother on the back there here, our assistant farmhand at Elmer back then. But spent a lot of time growing up in the farm, like I said, raising cattle, cattle, making a lot of hay. This is I said I'm so back because I'm going hay and had shoulder surgery last year. So I was excited to be back in the cabin. But I had a lot of experience in the farming industry, just working with my dad for so many years. I remember leaving kindergarten. Well, it wasn't even kindergarten probably. It was like preschool babysitter in the summer, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't like this. I'm going with you for the rest of the time, Dad." And I was probably a pest at that point in time, but. And then I also got to take part in an internship in high school with this is Mr. John Howe, my ag teacher from back in Penns Valley. And I actually got to take over and help teach some of his Ag Mechanics 1, which is his carpentry course, and his Ag Mechanics 2, small gas engine course. And that was really cool. It was like the first year that they were doing that sort of thing in Penns Valley. So I believe me and Grace both got to participate in that, which was pretty cool. And it was kind of what kicked me into gear looking towards ag ed in the future because I thought that it was something that I was genuinely interested in. So that was really cool as well. When it comes to diversifying my classroom, I've partaken in a couple things. Culturally responsive teaching was a week-long presentation that we got to hear from Dr. Laura Rice in 8412, our next course. And one thing that I really took away from CRT was learning students' backgrounds. I think that I want to take student inventory whenever I have my courses in the spring and the fall, and learn where students come from, how I can better integrate their cultures in my curriculum. I always thought that it was just about like, using proper language, things like that to make students feel comfortable. But there's a lot of other things that you can do as well. One really cool idea I have is like hanging flags in my room from different places that students may come from or wherever their cultures may be from, which I think would be really cool as well. So my variability in lesson planning, there's a lot of different learning styles out there. Not everyone learns the same way. Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory, some people need to get their hands dirty, perform activities and things like that. So I want to provide that variability for my lesson planning and not just be lecturing at them standing at the front all day because it's just not fun. We've all had teachers like that in the past. And then learning combinations, obviously, providing visual aids for those learners that may need visual aids, and also guided notes because sometimes students struggle with note taking. I was somebody that was also good at taking notes whenever I was in high school. Definitely not when I first got here to college until I learned some new strategies. So providing students with guided notes, I think, is extremely helpful as well. And then lastly, who do I aspire to be as a teacher? Those of you that are Harry Potter fans, I did not want to be like Dolores Umbridge. She was something. So, my teaching philosophy. It seems cliche, but I'm going to use it anyway. I go by the motto: every student, every time, no excuses. Not every student is the same. Actually, no student is the same, arguably. And I believe that you can always find a way to connect with students, give them content knowledge that they can use in their life, not just in your classroom whenever they're forming an assessment or whatever that may be. Every time is referring to my availability and my relatability for students. I want to be relatable to them. I want them to be able to speak with me, talk to me, come with me, whatever they may need. And there are no excuses. I don't believe in excuses. You find a way to do something because you want to do it, and that's the only reason that you need to do it. Enthusiasm. I would think I'm a pretty enthusiastic guy. I love to be a swimmer, just because I love dad jokes, things like that. So I'm going to use dad jokes whenever I go into teaching. But I believe in attitude method. Bringing a good attitude to class, bringing a good attitude to class. If you don't do that, your students aren't going to match it. You got to be able to match your students' attitude and match students' effort. You want them to give it back to you. And then I talked about relatability. Encouraging students to be able to talk to me, come up to me, feel comfortable talking to me. And then ask questions that allow them to make connections to maybe things that they're more familiar with. And that can be done through that student inventory that I was talking about. culture responsive teaching as well. So classroom management, another Ross Geller meme. So I have these posters up here. I'm just gonna highlight a few things on each of them. So for my classroom expectations, the one that I really want to highlight is this last one, which is have fun. You see a lot of expectation posters that highlight everything that they expect students to do. Like, obviously, we want you to be prepared. We want you to raise your hand to speak. Those are obvious things, but I also expect my students to have a good time, have fun. Obviously, there's things that need to happen. There's learning that needs to happen, and we're going to do that. But we're going to be doing that in a fun way, fun and engaging way. Classroom procedures. Essentially, what I want my students to establish a routine in my classroom. I believe routines are important, especially with a 45-minute period. They fly by extremely quickly. I learned that in my life knowledge lesson. And having this routine that students get used to, they come in, they know what they're doing, they know that they can enter and do the bell work, bring all the materials and be ready for the worksheet, and then obviously participate and completely catch up to the work when we leave. And the one that nobody likes to talk about, but everyone has to talk about, is the classroom consequences. So I kind of have here the verbal warning is first, then we have an after class discussion that continues, and then we start getting into parent contact and office referrals. But for the most part, I believe in doing things in-house. If you're constantly sending students to the office, chances are you're just not managing your class very well. And that shows in students. When students realize that they take advantage of you and they'll just get sent down to the office, then they're going to keep doing that. So I don't really believe in sending things to the office. I believe I can most things in-house, having a discussion with that student and highlighting why they're here. So here's my ideal program curriculum. So I kind of set this up as like if we had a 2-teacher program, I would have my ag next set, my favorite, and I would incorporate SAE into all of my social sequences as well. So every student would have an SAE. Let's start out with an ag foundations course, a basic ag foundations course, where we talk about things like FFA. That would be where I would have an international agriculture unit, things like that. And then obviously they can move on to ag mechanics 1 through 3. We get into carpentry, metalworking, welding, small gas engines. And then for the ag-related sciences, we look at animal science, plant science, food science, vet science, whatever it may be. And then also have those environmental science and those courses laid out as well. So, I know it's kind of hard to see, but essentially I designed a full wood and metal shop. So I have welding booths lined up right here on my metal shop, and full-blown wood shop with 2 cable saws, because one of my pet peeves is always having to change the dado blades with the regular blade in a wood shop. Although it is an important experience and it's something that students should know how to do, I do like having a cable saw that's strictly meant for dadoing, and then one that you can just leave the regular blade on. And then I have my classroom as well. As you can see, I think my classroom full prisoners. Now that I look at it, but anyway, then I also have this project, $15 project. This costs about, it's like just under $15. It's like $14.75. You need 1 board, 1 by 6 by 8. So I made this cool block. And we have a laser engraver at Central Columbia. So you can laser engrave, you can see it here down there. I have my Ford Freeze, and this opens up. We're also drawer of an open. Yeah, so I just thought that was really cool. And it's a way that I can use that in my work. I actually teach my Ag Science 1 and Ag Science 4 classes. So when we look at SAE integration, I believe that students should be required to have an SAE project as it is part of the free circle model. And I would have it integrated on scheduling visits and also graded for record keeping. I think that if you lay this out as, okay, you're going to have to do an SAE, you're going to have to do a foundational SAE when you start, I believe that means that you should also be throwing class time to those students for them to update their record keeping, things like that. I don't think it's fair for them to be graded on those things if I'm not providing them time to also do that maybe in class. Very selective time periods. The FFA integration, it's a student-led organization for a reason, and that's because the students should be leading it. I'm there as an advisor. I'm there to help them, guide them. But ultimately, I want the students to be at the forefront of my FFA program. As you can see here, this is a CDE poster that my students made during micro teaching at Baylor Shunk. We were going into CDEs and LEs and things that we thought that they would be interested in for careers. And one of my students made this really nice poster where they highlight key aspects of the contest, what's the aim, career possibilities, things like that. So that's just one example of one of the lessons that I'm going to be using in my FFA unit whenever I teach an ag science one at Central Columbia. Then we get into program recruitment. I threw in a picture of Coach Kale because he's our head coach here at Penn State. And ultimately, I threw that in there because everyone looks at us at Penn State as master recruiters, but ultimately, it's not the coaches and the kids that do the recruiting, it's the quality of the program. It's not just that we win a lot, it's we're genuinely good people, we care about each other, things like that. And I think that goes for my idea program as well. You show students that you care, you bring quality product to them, and they're going to come. But I also do believe in being a welcoming presence, being someone that kids can approach, talk to, things like that. And identifying that target audience. My demographics and my students should match the demographics of my FFA program, or my entire ag program. Just because if I'm missing in one of those populations, then chances are I'm doing something wrong. I need to reevaluate my program. And then obviously use students. Students don't want to hear from the teacher all the time. They do that enough in class. Use my students to advocate for my program. Then community integration. I do have community-based unit instruction for woodworking. I have an idea for building library shelves for a local library. A lot of times, library shelves get pretty run down before they get replaced. So I want to possibly, with my ag science sports students, build library shelves that could then be donated to the library. Vertical shelves, obviously, for the ones that are getting pretty run down. And then I highlight my OAC as well because I want to have industry folks on my OAC, local partners. Maybe there's a man that owns a small gas engine shop. I want that guy on my OAC because he can provide me with up-to-date information that I'm going to need. Bring my students because I want to keep my program relevant, things like that. A couple of my final thoughts. Generally up there. I believe my students are the drivers and I'm the vehicle. The reason I say that is the students get to choose where they're going. They're holding the wheel. They choose the direction. I provide them with the vehicle to move them in that direction that they want to pursue. If I need to back up, then we'll back up and we'll go in a different direction. But ultimately, the students are in charge of where we go. My program. So, thank you guys.
Again, we're going to start with our 10 minutes of questions. Really did a great job on the start you off with a thing I'm curious as to your general philosophies on all things coaching. So you're visual athletes, you probably have some experience with what that looks like, and I'm curious as to how you're going to translate it. You're going to translate into that to being a coach of CDE teams and DE teams. What is your philosophy and style for how you're going to coach students?
Yeah. So when we look at coaching in my FA program, I'm a believer of facilitation in the sense that student learning, in order for that to occur, whenever they're, say they're studying for whatever it may be, ag tech and mech systems, I believe I can provide them with resources and provide them with my knowledge, and then they can take that and do whatever they may. I don't believe in somebody that's constantly harping on, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, outlining the checklist, because that's not what my coaches did for me, and that's not what I want to do for them. They have the freedom to experience as much or as little of that contest as they want, if that makes sense. Whenever you're looking at going and competing, ultimately students need to know what their goal is, and I think they should highlight that. And that's for them to choose, that's not for me to decide. So they highlight their goal, they know what they want to get out of the contest, and I just provide the resources and facilitation to get them with it.
So you talked a lot about coming from a production ag background. But more and more we're seeing our students not coming from that production ag background. So how do you intend to incorporate SAEs that maybe are a little bit more into your program?
Yeah, so when we look at SAEs, especially now, we look at now we have, especially like with school-based enterprise SAE. I think that's really interesting because whenever I was, I guess I didn't really know what SAEs were, but for the most part of my program, SAE project was, oh, we're showing animals, oh, we're fixing lawnmowers, oh, we're mowing grass, things like that. But there's a lot of other opportunities out there, allowing students and pushing them towards maybe some research-based SAEs as well. Because some students get really enticed by the idea of taking deeper into certain topics, whether it be like animal science, plant science, things like that, and conducting experimentation. So I think pushing students towards that is not necessarily a bad thing either. If they want to do those other things, that's fine. But I also think incorporating a school-based enterprise SAE, allowing them to experiment and maybe research and on certain topics, I don't think we should shy away from that either.
I've got a follow-up off of that. First of all, I really liked that you met with your cooperative center about some things that they thought they could improve on. And so one of those things was SAE retention. So have y'all talked about what you might do to help, keep students involved in SAE projects?
Yeah, so one thing that we kind of hit on in our discussion was it seemed like whenever students were doing SAEs to start out, they were looking into that foundational SAE with career exploration, things like that. And a lot of times, whenever you have students that go into a foundational SAE and it turns out that this isn't really for me, this isn't really what I'm interested in, they kind of just shun that then. They're like, oh, that wasn't something that I was interested in. I thought maybe I would be. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think we talked about redirecting those students. So even if the SAE foundational SAE, they're like, yeah, no, I don't want any part to do with that. Giving them the resources that they need to then maybe redirect. Like I said, students have the wheel, they take the wheel, they can turn wherever they need to go, follow a different path. And I think that's one thing that we want to do is try to give them opportunities to, hey, this didn't go well, but redirect this.
Taylor, I'm going to give you a choice. I have two questions. You get to choose one. One is work-life balance, and one is advising students. Let's do it.
I'll do the work-life balance one.
Okay. I would imagine that you're going to, in a couple of years, find a program where you're going to be monitoring SAEs. You're going to be advising and running the FFA chapter, teaching a full load of classes. I have a sneaky suspicion you're going to want to coach a certain sport at that school. I also imagine you're going to want to farm at home and eventually start a family. How on earth do you balance all of those things and remain a professional that people in the community can lean on to be that guy in that community, in that program?
Yeah. So whenever I think about that, those are all things that you're right. It's not going to be easy, and I recognize that. And that's something that I also want to tell my students is it's okay to do hard things. And that's something that I've really taken on, especially this semester. This semester is not as easy. I have a lot of things on my plate that I have to deal with. But I think the biggest strategy for me and the thing that helps me the most is being surrounded by people that care. And I believe if I'm at a place where I can go to people and provide people, or maybe take a step back and take a deep breath, look at the big picture of things. And obviously, I talked about a little bit about organization. That's one thing that has taken a huge load off me recently, becoming more organized as an educator. I feel like I have all my ducks in a row now, a little bit more so than I did previously. So I think that's like the base thing for me is finding the community of support members that I can go to, talk with, just those things, because I do genuinely believe that I come into a classroom this semester. Hopefully my cohort members can back me up on this. But I come into a classroom and I bring a certain presence, and I believe that I always have a smile on my face. And yeah, I appreciate that. I always come in with a smile on my face, no matter how hard the day is, because that's just my job. That's what I'm going to do, and I believe in that. So.
Mr. Shunk, agriculture and education are dynamic, ever-changing disciplines and professions. How are you as an agriculture educator going to stay current and relevant?
So, whenever I think back to my community integration slide, I think about the folks that I'm gonna have on my committee. Program. Those are the people that are in the field, boots on the ground every day. So those are the people that I look to provide an update or information. What am I missing in my program? What can I incorporate? Is there new techniques in animal science? If I have a veterinarian, local veterinarian on my committee, I can speak to those people. They can tell me, hey, maybe we should try incorporating this, or maybe we should add this in. I think those are the best ways to stay current, simply because those are the people that are involved in that kind of thing every day. Yeah.
I think it's good that you get to be at some of the idea of the summer. You talked about that, the schedule is a little different. What's something that you're looking forward to during the summer that might help you then be a better advisor, when you have a vision from it?
Yeah, so one thing I'm actually really looking forward to is developing like an SAE participation schedule over the summer for students that are working, doing their SAEs over the summer. Getting to go on those visits, see what my students are doing, making sure they're keeping up to date with the record keeping, things like that. It's all super important. And I think that's something that's really cool, and that's a unique experience that I get to take part in over the summer calendar at Central Columbia. But there's a lot of other things going on with that too. Developing a program of activities throughout the day, all those things that a lot of other teachers don't get to do. So I'm extremely grateful.
And I'm gonna give you one more question, my last question. How would you leave the Woodpile hires?
Yeah, so basic way that I plan on doing the hires in Columbia is with my presence. I'm gonna be that pest, if that makes any sense. The person that just keeps showing up to things, whether it's academic events, athletic events, things like that. Being that welcoming presence that I talked about, I think is super important. And it's not necessarily the teaching, it's getting to know my students, it's relating to them, being someone that they can talk to, and just having the community recognize that as well is super important to me. I want my community involved in my program in the future, so I want to work on doing that while I'm teaching at Central Columbia. So, of course, just being that welcoming presence, being a pest, always being there for them, things like that.
Any questions from anyone?
Yeah.
How would you handle the finance program?
How would I handle it? Like, that one will probably go straight to the office. I can try and break it up, but that doesn't matter.
So you mentioned the Booster Fair, and that is the largest agricultural fair in Pennsylvania. They see about 50,000 people a day. What type of message about agriculture do you want that many people from all of the state and community to take away when they walk by the fair booth that Central Columbia has, or when they see that there's animals being shown from your program? What do you want the public to take away about what agriculture is?
I want them to know that ag is everywhere. I think that's like kind of the slogan that I see. Even growing up on the farm, I didn't necessarily see all parts of agriculture. I thought I did at the time, but spending time here, I've learned that there's a lot of other facets of agriculture, and that a lot of my students that I already met at Central Columbia, just being here a few times, they're like, hey, I do this, like, studies ag. I don't really think about it. So I think if we did a booth or something like that, I think that's what my dream would be, if we could incorporate different facets of agriculture and show people what ag is about and where it's going.
Is there time for questions? Can you join me in congratulating Mr. Shunk? We have to retire there. Portion of Mr. Shunk.